at that. We're almost there.
Lovely bunch.
Really, it's almost too much handsome in one car.
Yeah, right? Like, how do people handle this?
I'm uncomfortable with how much handsome's going on right now.
Facebook's gonna crash.
Look at this. We're in a Roscoe Village, or we're on a Roscoe Village side street. Showoff is in my car.
Hey.
Showoff.
What's going on?
Freaking Showoff. 20 years after the major label debut. We're going to talk to Showoff before they headline Beat Kitchen tonight. I should mention Showoff. This podcast, Car Con Carne, is presented by the Autobarn Mazda of Evanston. I spent quality time today at the Autobarn Mazda of Evanston, checked out what they had, walked out with Mazda 6 that I'm going to be driving around.
Did you really?
It's a loaner, but I walked out with the Mazda 6 and I'm going to use it for podcast moving forward. What a sweet car. They've got that 360 view, so when you back up, it's almost impossible to hit something.
Yeah.
Because you can see, it's like a drone follows you around. I don't even understand how the technology works, but you can see whether you're about to clip a side view mirror or back into a wall.
That is a useful tool.
I'm driving this thing around earlier today. We're in a Mazda 3, just for clarity's sake. I had a feeling I wouldn't be able to park the 6 tonight. I was driving around thinking, it's pretty obvious how we will eventually transition to driverless cars, because all the technology is there.
It's there.
Like
and I'm ready for it.
I was driving too close to the person in front of me. I got the brake red alert sign in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just knew. So anyway, Autobarn Mazda of Evanston, so much cool cars, and the technology, I think, speaks for itself. It really is fantastic. 1015 Chicago Avenue between Main and Dempster.
Can I just say, I was just car shopping.
Were you really?
I was, yeah. I got a Subaru. But I'm going to say that, what is it called, Car Barn? Autobarn, yeah. So Autobarn came up on my search, and they had so many cars that I was interested in that I thought were cool.
This is where you'd be going. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
no,
you.
really though. Like I did look at their site. I actually went onto their webpage because I was like looking for a car, and they had a bunch of cars that had all the stuff I was looking for in a car.
Oh, well, there you go.
Ironic.
So, full disclosure, there's no food in the car today. It was too difficult to pull off.
At Burger Fest.
So, Showoff is headlining tonight at Beat Kitchen. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't plan ahead, the Roscoe Burger Fest is happening on Belmont between Western and Damon. That entire stretch is completely blocked off. All the streets north and south are just strangled with activity. So it took a little while to get here. I'm parked maybe half a mile, quarters of a mile away from Beat Kitchen. I made Showoff walk to my car. I didn't make you. You were kind enough to do it.
No, you kind of forced us, but it is cool.
And I did walk you. I provided a personal escort.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I've long dreamed of being your personal escort, Chris.
I appreciate that. I need one of those.
I do. So,
Not the same kind of escort. Chris.
20 years ago.
That's true.
20 years ago.
My wife can't listen to this.
We were doing an interview. You would come to a big, opulent radio studio. We would sit and we'd broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people, and here we are on a side street in a car 20 years later. I'm not saying our career
moving
trajectories
up
have...
in the world.
Yeah.
It's life's good.
But we're happy.
Yeah.
But we're happy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been a minute since we all sat in the same room together.
2 decades. That's pretty crazy.
It's really crazy, and realistically, the last time I interviewed you was probably about the album you're performing tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts to me.
That's pretty crazy.
So, in preparation for this, the self-titled debut, which you put out on Madonna's label, Maverick, I haven't gone 20 years without listening to it, but it had been a little while, so I got the...
Oh, thanks for that plug. Really appreciate it.
Let me finish my sentence, Chris. But I got to go back into the album with fresh ears.
Yeah.
Because it had been a while since I really dove into it.
20 years.
No, it hadn't been... Come on now. It had been a while. Listening to it with fresh ears, I guess my big takeaway was... Yeah,
not hold up.
Stop. Now, my takeaway was, this should have connected. This should have worked. This should have gone farther than it did. I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
No, not really.
No, come on. Really?
Yeah, not really.
I think it is a very much in that moment sound. I think you have some great... Let's go song by song. Can we go song by song?
No.
Ooh.
Yes, let's do it. I'm ready.
Let's start with Backstab.
Is this a quiz? Because I don't do very well.
Are you playing the album in order tonight?
We are, yeah.
Okay, so awesome. So it starts with Backstab. This to me is pop punk in a nutshell. This song, I mean, what a great album opener. It's all up tempo. You can sing along, but it's about a toxic relationship.
Yeah,
that's pop punk to me.
Yeah,
kind of masking the negative or the dark stuff with choruses that you can pump your fist to.
Yeah. That was kind of like the first song. Chris came out of a band that we were all big fans of called AYA, and they kind of ruled around what would you
Homewood?
say? Yeah,
What?
Homewood, Joliet.
Yeah, Joliet.
And so, yeah, I kind of looked at that song as like a little bit of him talking to those friends who, you know, things ended kind of rough. And it was just such a cool thing it was like the first song where we're like, we're going somewhere, I think.
Oh,
we can.
Sorry, keep talking.
Oh, yeah.
New camera. Someone just said fix the camera. Yeah, I think I was just showing Chris's nipple for the entire.
Oh, wow.
It's my nipple is interesting.
Like
Tell me about
anybody
it.
needs to
It's
see
very
anything
small.
else.
And
I think I erroneously pushed the wrong button, so I was on the nipple cam.
hey, all right.
Everything should be back to normal now. You know, before we started recording tonight, the question was, "Are you a techie?" Posed to me.
It looked impressive.
I wanted to really prove that the answer is no.
This
No,
like
clearly
this
not.
car studio though,
Get the
man.
nipple
Like
cam.
that's give you props on this. Like you
Oh,
got
thank
it
you.
really worked out.
We walked
That's
up
crazy.
to this and I was starstruck. This is amazing. To just see these mic stands
Oh yeah, it's
coming out of
it's
every-
nuts, and we're in this highly residential area too, which is really weird. Let's talk about Spill. One of the things I really like about Spill, you do some vocal calisthenics on that song.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I was thinking, I remember back in the day, I used to I was singing these songs, stuff like Spill, and it was kind of like, I think it was what people like knew my vocals for, where was like, I was doing, and it was before Busta Rhymes was doing his Busta Rhymes rap stuff.
You're just like Busta Rhymes.
Yeah, I mean, we look the same. I look just like him.
You do.
Yeah, and but yeah, it's funny because there are people that I would talk to who would be like, "Oh yeah, like you do like rap rock, right?" And I'm like, "Hell no, I don't do rap rock. This is not rap rock. This isn't like House of Pain meets the whatever Cypress Hill thing or whatever. Like no, I don't do that. But it's fun. It's fun to do that. You know what it was? Honestly, is when I was a kid, I used to watch. Do you remember? What are they called? Micro Machines. And then I'd be like, like the
yeah.
fastest talker.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I always tried to keep up with him when I was a kid, like a little
That's
kid.
awesome.
And then I was like, man, and I was like, I want to do songs like put stuff like the Micro Machine guy, and put like lyrics in there like the Micro Machine guy, you know?
Can you still do it? Will we see tonight? Can you still?
Yeah, I mean I'm old, but I can bust a rhyme
He
with.
lays down when he does it.
I do lay down
Gets to lay down
sometimes.
and rest.
I'm like Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm like my mom. I'm like Jesus, please, and then I lay on the ground.
So let's talk about Ralphie. Should that have been a single?
That's a good question.
It
I don't
dawned
know.
on me about 3 years ago that we took that opportunity to make a major label release and then named a song about a girl, Ralphie. It's just kind of strange.
So it was written for a girl named Pam.
Okay.
And if you look, the lyrics are "Put your arms around me." P-A-M, Pam. Put your
me.
arms around me. So it was for Pam. And at the end, it was
This
originally.
is like the Da Vinci Code. What you're doing here.
Yeah.
You take the first letter of every word in the chorus.
Yeah. So I was singing it, and it used to go like, "You and your sweet name, Pamela." But instead, she and I like split up or whatever it was, and I was like, I'm not singing that
Nope.
about her.
For
So
the
at
rest of
practice, I went, "You and your sweet name, Ralphie," and I was like, "That's it. Let's do it like that. Let's do it like that."
Being big fans of Ralphie from
Ralph
Christmas
the Mouth
Story.
from Happy Days, actually.
Or yeah, that was it. Ralph
Yes.
the Mouth from Christmas Story.
Falling Star.
Yep.
Here's the tricky thing. If you're playing the album in order, that should be an encore, right? In another world?
It would be.
Discussed.
Yeah, it was discussed. But then we were like, I would just do it from the top to the bottom, like people hear it. So it's almost like hearing the record. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do it that way. But yeah, I think that's the one song like everybody would know.
Yeah.
You know.
Tell me
Well,
about
not
that.
everybody, but
Tell me about that moment in time. It's
yeah.
2000. The song is out. Tell me what was going on in Camp Showoff at that time.
Man, I remember. I remember the song comes out, and for us, I think were we on the Get It Coca-Cola tour
Oh yeah.
with Everclear at that time?
Right
What
at
was
that
it?
time, or that was right before.
Get it. Remember, Coca-Cola had this thing where you'd twist the bottle cap off, and then there'd be a code in the bottle cap,
Okay.
and then that bottle cap code, you would type it in, and then it would be like, you have a free ticket for this show. And it was us, Citizen King from Milwaukee, and Everclear.
Can we talk about the acronym? So it's IDIC, and if you really break that down, it's if you don't know, you don't go. And
That's
really, it was a
hip for the
terrible
time.
tour to be on.
Yeah, it's
when
like
our album comes out.
Our first big tour, and you couldn't tell anybody.
Nobody could know.
Right. I've got a secret. I
I
can't
never
tell
think
you.
about that. That's
Yeah.
totally true.
Well,
yeah.
not to mention when we first signed up with that booking agency or whatever.
CAA, yeah.
And they were like, who do you want to tour with? And we listed off all these great bands, and then I was just being a smartass. I'm like, well, anybody but Everclear. And our first tour was a tour we couldn't tell anybody about with Everclear. So
Yeah.
you could tell our career was doomed from that day forward.
From the moment on.
Well, was it doomed? I mean, you guys disbanded in a couple years later in 2002.
Mhm.
What precipitated that? Was that just the labels falling apart? We just can't keep the hamster wheel going anymore. What was that?
Oh man, you're gonna love this story. We were on Maverick Records, and we felt like, hey, they pushed Falling Star at a time when like Limp Bizkit and I don't know who was big, but
Right, that was that whole era. That Korn was the dominant band.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So we were hoping they would push something that was a little more edgy. I mean, from us, since we're not that edgy of a band, we were hoping they'd push something a little more edgy. They suggested do Someone as a harder song, and we were like, we just felt like things weren't clicking with that label.
They
like,
wanted Someone, which to me is almost like a misfit with the rest of the album because it's down tempo and just
it is, yeah. But they wanted us to record a harder version of it,
okay.
and we were like, you know what? I think
This just sounds
It was,
this
we
sounds
were
like
like,
what
it's
it
not,
became.
rabbit hole.
it's not clicking with how it should click. So we said, let's get on a different label. So we ended up changing managers at the time, and then he was from New York, and so we were like, you know what? We're going to change labels, and we were talking to Drive Through Records at the time, and they were doing very well at that time. So we were talking to them, but the manager we had at the time was like, let's do a major label showcase. So we had the a major label showcase prepared. We had the second album already recorded with Maverick, and then we were leaving. It was September 9th. We were leaving for New York City. September 13th was supposed to be our date for the show, and it was September 11th. We were leaving for New York City, and I turned on the TV, and the planes hit it, and I was like, "That's got to be a joke." Like, at first, I was just like, "Is this like an April Fool's?" I was like, "Wait, it's September. Like, what's going on here? This makes no sense."
Yeah.
And then we figure out, like, all that was going on in 9/11. So, I mean, our problem's minuscule compared to what people went through on that day, obviously. But
I
it
can see how
totally
this-
affected
this just
the
upends
trajectory.
everything. Yeah.
But it gets crazier than that because we rescheduled, because the music business was like nothing. At that time, it was like, we're not doing anything right now. We
Nobody
don't
knew
know
what
what's
to
going
do.
on. Yeah.
Across the arts and entertainment.
It was crazy, yeah. So we were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So our manager's like, let's book another tour or another show in New York City as a showcase. So we're like, okay, let's do it. And we book it, and we drive out to the WWE Center. That's where our showcase was, right? Now, there was police tape across from the building to another building where we were playing. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, what's going on? And there are cops everywhere. So I went up to a cop and I was like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, well, you heard like that somebody had sent anthrax to a news building, right?
Oh my Lord.
And we were like, yeah? And he's like, that's the building right there. It was across the street from where we
course it
were
was.
supposed to play our show. So at that point, I feel like we had done, from that point, from April, we had recorded from January to April, and from April until the end of the year, we did almost 270 shows. Is that right?
Yeah,
I wasn't in the band at that point.
Oh, yeah.
We had lost Dave.
I already
We had lost Dave, but we had done
Yeah,
like
that's-
270 shows, and we were just like, "This is we have to take a break." And after the second time of that stuff happening, we were like, "You know what? Like, I was having just issues at that time. Just I was not in a good mental space. Like, I've had been dealing with anxiety and panic disorder my whole life, and depression, and being on the road did not help any of those
can't
things."
imagine.
And then being on the road with all those things, and then those two huge things
forget it.
happening, way worse for other people, but it definitely, like, it's crazy, but those two things, like, they made an actual, like, very big dent in the career of Showoff. Like, where do you go from there?
Right, and I don't think you're the only band.
Oh, definitely not.
A lot of bands were affected by that, and I agree. If you're already prone to those sorts of emotions and feelings, those two things probably are just enough to make you say, I just need to recenter. Maybe we can check, we can figure out where we're at, maybe in a year or two or 3 or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did, but at the same time, I feel like then Dan had stuff going on. He has the band The Fold.
Mm-hmm.
So he had that started, and that started going on, and that stuff for him started happening. And then, like, for me, it was still just as you said, like, I'm not trying to be like, you know, Buddha meditator guy, but, like, I needed to recenter. I needed to get my head back, and, like, it took time to do that. But as it does, time passes me by. You know, time passed all of us by. And then, like, to reconnect on that, it took forever. So it wasn't until 2017 that we were able to really, like, get together again and start doing this.
So there's nothing acrimonious, which I think is always the assumption when a band kind of rises and falls quickly. And not that you fell, but you called it a day.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense. The timing of everything, it's
crazy.
It's crazy. And it's true. I mean, you kind of said it. You almost can't complain, even though your career was silent. You can't even, like, discuss in broad career terms because it was 9/11.
Right, yeah. And I mean, what are you going to take pity on yourself? Like, way worse things happened to people on those days. It impacted us personally, but it's incredible to think that, like, moments like that, huge moments in American history, but, like, those moments seriously affected and took its toll on the band itself, which is, again, I'm not comparing to what had happened to other people.
I don't think anyone would accuse you of that.
I hope not, because you never know.
It's a perfectly natural.
People like to latch on things, you know that. People like to latch on to things and
talk about it on the internet.
Exactly. I don't care about those people.
Let's talk about Bully.
About you people. Some of you I do. Most of you.
Let's talk about Wooly Bully, the Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs song you covered so ably.
Glad you brought that up.
Was Bully about kicking drugs, or?
I've never been a drug addict in my life. I drank.
You can still write about it. I mean,
yeah. I not from personal experience on myself, but, like, that song in itself, which is an interesting thing, I think, I always go back religiously. Like, I'm not a religious person. My dad was very much religious. He was a youth pastor. And so that song itself was almost like my thoughts on, like, using religion to get rid of drug addiction. When it's talking, like, on a crucifix, it was like using, not in a bad way, but in a positive way, like people do in, like, AA and whatever, using, or I guess using is the right word, but using religion to get themselves off of something they're addicted to. I was an addict. I wasn't an addict of drugs, per se, but I was an addict at the time. So I understood that from a personal level, but not on a drug thing. But that specifically was referencing using religion to get off of drugs, but drugs is a metaphor for almost any addiction.
Okay. Dan, you look like you want to say something.
Please.
No.
Okay.
that was
just his face.
It's funny revisiting these songs. Chris is talking a little bit about the lyrics. He's like, where was I going with that? So yeah, I've never heard you explain Bullet.
I figured, now's the time. You're doing the 20th anniversary show.
Yeah, right?
Let's go all in. Second Chance. You know, when we started talking, I said it seems to me like this song was the right sound at the right time. That song in particular, especially in the post-Blue Album world we lived in, it seemed like a natural fit for what the public wanted.
Yeah, it's hard to...
It's kind of like that sock hop vibe.
yeah, I feel like on that album, and that's probably why, you know, I mean, it's so hard to say because for you know, let's say the people that choose the songs that go on the radio, you know, how do you choose it? And even for the people who are working your record from the label side, it's how do you choose the right song for the right moment? And I think a lot of that has to do with, I mean, I'm sure people are going to be like, I'm a professional, I know what I'm doing. A lot of it's luck. I mean, a lot of it's luck. It hits at the right moment. You were at the right place at the right time, and it hit. And I think with Second Chance, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if that would have been a song that came out, you know? I don't know, though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
we were
one,
destined for it.
I think that song fell victim to that thing that happens when you're making an album where, like, there's a song where everyone's saying, this is the first single the whole time. By the way, Chris and I wrote this very much sitting like you two in the front seat of a car. I remember one of us had an acoustic, the other one was driving.
Second chances.
But
I
it was
love that.
kind of like
Yeah.
we were pumped the whole way. John Feldman produced the album from Goldfinger, and he was putting all the time into Second Chance. Then Chris wrote Falling Star, which I think we already talked about.
Yeah, we did.
And it was like, this is the single. So then it was like, oh, I remember someone kind of flippantly saying at a dinner with Maverick that we'll thumb wrestle over what the second single is, and maybe it would have been the second single, but we never got to that.
Yeah, I never got to that point.
Which is emblematic of that era in general, for sure. Tell me about this time.
Let's see. This time. So this time, I feel like that's a song that really got lost. Like, we never play it. We were playing it tonight. We never play it.
Did you have to kind of relearn it?
Yeah. Like, even on the way down, I'm like singing along with it on the
Well,
radio.
Here's the
I'm
great
like,
thing.
Oh, man.
If you fuck up tonight, if you forget a lyric, you know the crowd's going to sing it for you.
I hope so.
I guarantee that'll
Plus,
happen.
like, I'm not trying to have the singer ego, but like I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm pretty sure I've sang the lyrics even to Falling Star wrong, like at times. But when people come up to me, like they never say anything about it, and even if they did, I would be like, I wrote the song. Like you can't tell me how to sing it. You know?
Right.
I mean, it was funny though, just to think of like they're probably in the crowd going like, how the fuck does this guy not know his own song? You know? And I'm like, it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't sit around singing it, you know?
Unspoken Words was the prom theme that never happened.
Unspoken Words I wrote when I was 15 years old.
Seriously.
That
Yeah.
was kind of a solo song that we kind of said, Chris, we need to put this
So
on.
that is truly the high school Chris.
It is, yeah. Oh, man. The
truly
high
had
school
no
Chris
idea.
was like, I just want a girlfriend and no girls will look at me. Like, that was the high school Chris. So I was just like thinking about that. And,
Did you use actual strings on that?
No.
What was the...
no, not on the album. They had some, and I don't know what it is now, but like, you know, keyboards can do everything now.
Is that
But
what
that was
said?
not a
Okay.
keyboard. It was this machine that like produced, like, it had tapes of every single note, and somehow they would program these cassette things to make.
Mellotron?
Is that what it is?
Something like that. I'm probably saying it's like
Yeah, it was a strange thing. Like, I didn't understand, and I wanted no part of. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. That thing's gonna do
Yeah,
its
that is
magic, I
cool.
guess. All right.
Beatles made it famous, whatever it is. Whatever I'm saying is that they don't.
Beatles show off. I mean,
I was
come
gonna
on,
say,
apples
if you
to
like-
apples here.
If you like the Beatles, you're going to love Showoff.
Yeah.
Love unspoken words.
Fact. Tell me, is this another Chris holding out hope for a crush?
I'm going to tell you, just to give away pretty much all of my songwriting secrets, it's all about, like, not being able to get a girlfriend. Like, it is all about that. I mean, I was lovesick throughout. You know, you grow up with, like, for me, I grew up with, like, two parents that like, very much loved each other and showed that love all the time. And, like, I wanted that, you know? I wanted that. I was one of 8 kids, so I didn't get enough attention. I just wanted that kind of love. And I think, look, when you're a kid and you have those relationships, the girls that you get into relationships, like, I don't know about everybody, but like, I felt so hard for those girls, you know, like, I thought, oh, she's so cute, and then they paid attention to me, probably because I was in a band at the time, and they paid attention to me, and I was like, this is amazing, like, and that particular song was about a girl, Melissa, that was my girlfriend, not the girlfriend at the time I wrote the song, but I wanted to know, like, I wanted to ask her so bad, and I did eventually, and then I got a girlfriend for 3 years, I think.
Who doesn't love a happy ending?
Yeah.
Coalition, what I like about this, there are hints of just snotty punk and reggae. Stylistically, this is a fun one.
Yeah.
Like the different textures and...
It's fun to play. It's like
nuances.
one of the ones that, like, you get energy from, you know?
All right, let's go to the end, the anti song. Why is this at the end? Was this just kind of like, this is just kind of our big dumb fun song. We're gonna put it at the end.
I don't know if you know that there was. Yeah, it
Maybe
was,
dumb's the wrong word.
I like it.
it describes it. Yeah, it was. So at the time, because it's like the punk rock scene in Chicago, or whatever. Like people would, you're a sellout if you like. You're on a major
That
label.
doesn't
You're a
exist
sellout
anymore, by the way. That was a thing. I mean, people who
It
didn't
really
come up in that
was.
era don't understand how like divisive and how the lines were drawn back then. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I think it's and it shouldn't have been. I think it's crazy that instead of like fostering a scene together, the scene, and it was not just Chicago, but the scenes would be like so divided on like something like that. And I'm always like, well, some of my favorite bands are considered pop punk or punk rock gods,
Mm-hmm.
like the Ramones, major label,
Yeah.
Sex Pistols, major label. Like I loved those bands. Misfits, major label. Like those bands were on major labels,
Right.
So
Not minor threat,
the
though.
sellout thing never.
Contrarian in the backseat.
Yeah, it's so weird to hear like
I
sellout
think
or
it's a
whatever.
good chance to talk about where we came from too, because
Villa Park.
we couldn't get arrested like in Chicago. Our dream was to be on like a Johann's Face or something.
Yeah.
So we sent out 30 letters and got our either non-response or our quick we're not interested response. And so for this thing to happen with John Feldman getting interested in our first album and bringing us out to LA, it was like, I think that's where this song kind of came from. It was that tension of like, oh, we didn't really get to do what we wanted to do, but here we are. And
That's interesting.
there was a little bit of jealousy and definitely hatred from some of the indie bands back home.
Yeah, it was such a different
It was.
mode of thinking, different time. Thinking about those early days, I'm pretty sure the first time I heard you was off a cassette.
Yeah, we sent a cassette to you.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah, we sent a cassette to you, and you played it like on one of the things.
Yeah,
I think
on
you played
Local
it on.
101,
Yeah, and it was. I remember hearing it for the first time. I can't remember what song it was. Do you remember? But I remember hearing it for the first time. I sat in my car and I waited. And I was at Fireside Bowl, actually. I was waiting outside. I wanted to hear it get played. And then you played it and I was like, just thrilled. Like, I was just elated. I was so happy. And, like, all of us were just, like, jumping for joy. Like,
I
it was
love
such a cool feeling to know that, like, who knows how many people are listening to your song right now, and like what a cool, that was such a cool thing that you did. Like, what a huge part of the scene you
Thanks.
have been for, I mean, how long now? What,
It's been a bit.
Th-
still
3
doing that stuff,
decades?
yeah.
I mean,
Well, and-
that's amazing. That's amazing.
I was talking about this earlier this week with Brian Shamey of the Daily Herald.
Oh, I
There's-
love Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, there's never enough
Good egg.
coverage of local music, and when there is, you have to throw your arms around it. Like, this is one of the few reflections of the community that exists in the media. I was really lucky to be in that position, to hear all that stuff tumble in. I still am lucky to be in a position like that. It's awesome, and I would say there is no commercial radio show dedicated to local music outside of mine anymore. There used to be 3 when I started.
Wow.
3 different radio stations. Now there are none on commercial radio in Chicago. It's crazy.
That is crazy, and like, this is not an ass kissing thing, but like, people were lucky to have you. Like,
Oh.
no, honestly though, because like, you gave bands who had no shot of being heard by anybody. I mean, honestly, nobody is gonna listen. Who's
Right.
gonna be able to hear you? You know, you gave them a platform. Like, you worked hard for those bands. You put in a lot of energy and a lot of time to get those like bands heard by people. Gave bands shot who would never have had a shot getting anything on the radio. That's a huge deal. Like, I'm not trying to, like, again, it's not ass kissing thing, and I don't want to underplay. I want you to understand from a band that came from that era, at least, like, what a huge deal it was for us. Not just for the fact that people got to hear our stuff and that we got to have people hear it, but the confidence that it helped build with us. We would not. I honestly don't think we would have gotten signed to a major label if you hadn't played our stuff.
Wow.
Honestly, because I
I'm
think
gonna
we
hug
got the
shit out of
confidence,
you.
right?
Before the night's over, I'm gonna hug the shit out of you.
I don't do hugs. I'm totally joking. I do.
I'm gonna have to.
I was gonna say,
I do.
I think we had a bro hug when we first saw you.
Yeah. No, I'm a hugger. Yeah, I'm a hugger.
All right. So when you got back together a few years ago, Was it the cliche of riding a bike? Was it just like, okay, these are my guys, this is my band, this is...
It felt so good. Yeah, it felt so good. To be with these two, especially. I love George
Can we see the coat you're wearing, by the way?
Yeah, it's my glamorous.
It's only
white
100
viewers on
fur.
Facebook. It's
how
like
I'm in there.
1,000 fucking degrees outside, and he's wearing...
1,001 inside of this bad boy.
It's gonna get hot. Yeah, there's just been a tremendous level of respect for these two guys, and then we got some younger blood to fill in for the one original guy who didn't really want to do the reunion thing, and so that helped as well. Yeah, it's just been awesome, and we got to write some new songs, which that's always been the base of Showoff, is we're all just fans of what Chris does with his micro.
I'm not fans of myself.
Machine influenced.
I enjoy writing, but I'll tell you, like, I was in other bands after it, and did things, with other bands after it, and had some success with those bands too. But when I got together with these guys again and started writing, it's like such a natural process.
Sure.
Like it felt like, and it's sappy, but I don't care. Like, I'm too old to give a shit. So it felt like home. It really did. It felt like so comfortable that like I could, and I told you the anxiety and panic disorder and stuff. I don't get that when I'm around them. Like, I feel like I'm with my brothers, like people I've known, and I have.
Well, it's like you've been in the foxhole with them. I mean, you came up with them when you were kids.
It was cool.
You've been through all the grind of putting out a big record, going on big tours, playing whatever you said, 270 shows in a truncated amount of time. I mean, you went to war with these guys.
Yeah.
So there is that kind of camaraderie that you cannot reproduce.
Yeah, it's fascinating because writing stuff with other people, like, it felt kind of like it was trying, it wasn't so natural. Not that it was bad, it was, I made great friendships and with amazing musicians, but with these guys, it's just like, I could be thinking something and then Dan will just say it. Like, I'll be like, oh, we should do this part. In my head, I'm like, oh, we should do this part like this. And Dan will just be like, hey, we should do this part like this. I'm like, yeah, okay, no shit. Like, of course he knew. And then Dave would do the same. I would be like, oh, it'd be so cool if Dave played this bass, like this little line right here. But he was already playing it. Like, so I don't know if it was like hearing his line and then I'm like, that's how it should be.
We just share a brain.
It was awesome. It's awesome.
So I realized tonight is all about looking back 20 years, which is so weird.
It is. Holy crap, right?
I mean, in my head, I'm 30, which means that we last talked about this album when I was 10. And I know the math is wrong there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So, I mean, tonight's all about looking backward. Looking forward, what does this mean? I mean,
who knows?
Full speed ahead, or is this kind of a conditional thing? Like, if the stars align, we'll keep...
I'll tell you, like, I honestly feel like if we... I have no desire in any way to do anything where I get big. Like, none. Zero. Unless it's with these two. Like, if something happened with these guys and with this band, like, I would feel comfortable and confident enough to go on the road and do things if the right, situation presented itself or whatever. But, I'm in my 40s. Like, what's the real opportunity that's going to happen? Who knows? I mean, things change, things happen. So it could, you never know. But if it happened with these two, I would feel comfortable enough to go for it, But at this point, like, I don't see it. Like, I don't see that kind of fame happening for us. And I don't think any of us expect it. Like, it'd be amazing if it happened, Like, if we pushed forward and, like, things blew up and things actually, like, really happened again for the band. That'd be super cool. I think anybody would think that would be so much fun if they were part of it,
Well, I think the Smoking Popes model's the right one.
Yeah.
These guys aren't a full-time band anymore, but they do several gigs a year. They still write and record, but it's not their full-time concern.
Right, yeah. Mike from the Smoking Popes is a good friend of mine.
Okay.
He actually is, like, the VP of the label that I run.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So are you affiliated with Rock Room, too?
Yeah, so the band, all the bands that I have on my label are from Rock Room. Like, that's how we found them. They came through and we're on his show, and
like
then
the farm system of the label.
Yeah, it is like little AA.
I love what he does with that.
It's awesome. Yeah, he does a great job. He's a really good guy, and I think like I love the model that they have. They have more fame than we have, so I don't think we could go out and do the same things they do. But,
No, but you can still keep that kind of schedule and still write and still.
yeah, I think that's kind of what our plan is. You
More or
know?
less what we've done, other than we have a year off in between shows occasionally.
Yeah. The reality for all of us is that we have families
Yeah,
and
of course.
kids, and like now, our kids are our concern. That's having kids to me, like that's honestly the most amazing thing
Yeah.
ever, and it's like nothing musical can combat or can do anything that's gonna like make me feel like this should be more important. It never will be. And it won't be for any of us. Like all of us, we love our families and our kids, and we're just family. We're family guys now.
Grilling on the weekend.
My wife grills.
Grilling.
Yeah.
Are you a dad joke guy?
Oh yeah.
There are some things that
no.
I don't understand. The cultural tide has turned. Suddenly, these things that are perfectly innocuous and lovely are villainous and terrible. Cargo shorts. There's a war on cargo shorts. It's a great way to hold your phone, your wallet, miscellaneous stuff, but suddenly you can't wear cargo shorts.
Swiss Army knife.
Dad jokes are apparently not cool. When did puns become not cool? Puns are... Everyone loves a good pun, right?
Yeah. Fuck the people that don't think those are cool.
Thank you, Chris.
I mean, come on. You gotta have fun in life, right? Like, life is serious as this conversation, lots of it has been serious. People can see serious things happen, but why not have some fun?
Right.
I heard a dad joke today. Goes, knock knock.
Who's there?
I eat mop. I eat mop.
I eat my poo.
You eat your poo? Disgusting.
See? See?
That's amazing.
Solid.
It's so terrible, but it's like
Chris brings the whole car down with that. Yeah.
whew.
I eat my poo.
Yeah, I gotta
cannot
take a
wait to
break.
tell that to
I am
my
so glad
9-year-old.
that Showoff is here. I'm so glad you're playing the self-titled album tonight. Let's not wait another 20 years before we get together.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you for having us.
I really appreciate it. I know you've got a show to do. Literally, you're doing this before you
Well,
take the
actually,
stage.
They'll wait.
We need to go eat because.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Are you busting my balls because we're not eating for the podcast?
Busting your balls, James.
This was kind of a last minute coming together.
Yeah.
We tried to do this a few weeks ago, but schedules didn't permit, so I thought maybe we'll try.
Life is hard when
Life
you get
is hard.
40. Oh, man.
Uh-huh.
Well, and then when we're divided among like 3 states.
Well, that was
Exactly.
it.
A little
Because we were going to
difficult.
do this at Brower House, I think,
Yeah.
a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
That was the
Yeah.
tentative plan. But I'm glad this worked out. Please go get some food. My apologies. It is a carne less. It is Carcine Carne episode tonight. I just wanted to get you in the car.
Oh, we loved it. Thank you.
Food be damned.
We don't
All right.
need food when we have you.
So to listen to you, obviously you're on all the streaming platforms. Your social media handle is Showoff Band, Showoff.
Showoff
Band, yeah.
Showoff Band.
I don't think you can tell Alexa to play Showoff. I tried that today. It did not
I
go
think it
well.
plays that rapper Showoff,
Yeah.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
not Chris.
You guys were born. Your band was born pre-Google.
Yeah.
Like you're a
It's
tough
true.
band to Google now.
I think we had it. We had it at the time, but we lost it to a rapper, maybe.
I mean, just imagine if you named your band like Balls in My Face. I mean, no one would ever find you.
That's true.
Yeah.
They'd have a fun time trying.
Carquin Carne is presented by the Audubon Mazda of Evanston. That's freaking Showoff. Tonight, if you're watching this on video, first of all, thank you. It's been like a 30, 40-minute video. If you're watching
Love
this
you,
on video,
James.
go see him at Beat Kitchen, but also leave now because you're not going to be able to park. Take an Uber, maybe.
Uber.
All right, thank you, guys.
Get there.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Gonna turn this off.
Nice.